Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Log Show here on YouTube. I miss you guys all so dearly last week, and boy, has today been fun. I can't start it any other way. With the NFL trade line today, boy, has today been fun. We have already seen some blockbuster trades happen. The Saints trade Raheem Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks. And as everyone here in New York already knows, just about over an hour ago, we saw the Jets make a move that many Jets fans have been asking for a while, as Sauce Gardner, after his giant extension, is shipped over to the Indianapolis Colts for 2 first-round picks and Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver. So that is a big blockbuster deal. So much has happened since the last time I see you. The Dodgers win a thriller of a Game 7. The Knicks are up and down right now. And college basketball started last night, folks. And I am so happy. I got to see my Johnnies back in action last night. The new look Johnnies with Ian Jackson, with Zuby back, with all the stars from the transfer portal. They get a big W over Quinnipiac. Absolutely ran the floor with them last night in Carnesecca. So that was fun to watch. Finally, my Johnnies are back. I will be at MSG on Saturday to watch the matchup against Alabama. I am excited for this year with Johnnies basketball, but I usually would wait for this for the end. And I will probably go back to like when I talk about week 9 at the end. But I cannot help but start this show with the Sauce Gardner trade. It's the biggest news right now in the NFL. It's the biggest news of the day with the trade deadline happening today, with the deadline happening at 4 p.m. Eastern time today. And Sauce Gardner is sent over to the Indianapolis Colts, like I said before, for a 2026 second, a 2027 second, and Adonai Mitchell. And this is a huge pickup for honestly both teams. This is one of those trades that you look back at the Micah deal, that was 2 first-round picks. So defensive stars, the trade precedent was set there, and it was hit here with Sauce Gardner as the Jets are able to get 2 first-round picks for him after them and the Colts have been negotiating for probably weeks now, I would assume. But nonetheless, they get that deal done today right before the deadline happens. Sauce Gardner goes over to the 7-2 Colts. Sauce Gardner, someone who has struggled as of the year before, playing a little better this year. He's ranked top 30 according to PFF in cornerbacks, but everybody knows how people feel these days about PFF rankings. They're starting to get a little fugazi, as some people like to say. But nonetheless, Sauce Gardner is an Indianapolis Colts, moves over to a Colts defense that's been struggling. They're currently 26th in pass defense, even though that team has been winning. They've been winning through their offense, through all of that. And, I mean, to start it here, let's try to fix the mic here before I really get into this. How we doing, chat? How we doing? How's it sound now? Oh my God, as we get another alert for a giant trade. I'm going to go right into this one as I get the alert on my laptop here, trying to open up my notification center as the Cowboys are trading for Jets Pro Bowler Quinnen Williams. So the Jets have now gotten a 3rd first-round pick today as Quinnen Williams moves over to the Dallas Cowboys. A gigantic move here for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry that I keep looking at my laptop as I'm going to try to open this up now and get all the details on this. I don't even want to get into Sauce Gardner as the Jets are clearing house on this trade deadline day, as Ian Rappaport just tweets that. I saw the chat just saying that Breece was next, but now Quinnen Williams is next on that list with the breaking news there. Oh my God, Quinnen Williams joins a Jets D-line now that is very much struggling a lot, or not a, I mean, a Cowboys D-line that struggled on pass rush a lot this year. One of the best defensive tackles in the league. One of the best run stuffers in the league that Jerry Jones talked preseason about fixing that. And now you see the Cowboys defense that has struggled through the season after a bad loss last night to Arizona are making moves today. They get a D lineman earlier today from Cincinnati and now make the trade for Quinnen Williams, who, like, I really got to think about this. I know I'm just like, I'm shocked by what just happened here, but as the details come in, I cannot believe what we are seeing. It is expected that this is the Cowboys' first-round pick, not the Packers' first-round pick, which is a great move for the Jets. If that is a first-round pick from this year, I mean, wow. The Jets moved two of their biggest defensive players within 2 hours of each other. This Jets team seems to be clearing house. As yes, everyone knows the Jets struggled early this year. Obviously, the 0-7 start and then the win over Cincinnati going into the bye week this week. And they seem to be, looking at it this way, which is a very smart way of thinking of it. Outside of Garrett Wilson, who would be a direct weapon and a direct help to whoever this new quarterback is, whoever this next generation of Jets quarterback is, we now have a situation where they're trying to clear house, clear money, and try to stock up on first-round picks, try to stock up on young players and really hit a reset button here under Aaron Glenn, or maybe even if they move on from Aaron Glenn, under whoever that next head coach is for the New York Jets. So as we get the details here, I'll go back to what I was saying about the Sauce Gardner trade. And as we see the Jets just absolutely clearing house here. But, yeah, I mean, the Colts very much needed a star cornerback like a Sauce Gardner to fit into that defense that's been struggling a lot this year. But the Colts pass defense that's been, like I just said, a Colts pass defense that's been struggling a lot this year. But nonetheless, the rest of that Colts team has been playing well. Obviously, the offense with Daniel Dimes, Jonathan Taylor, and all them have been lighting it up. Outside of Adonai Mitchell, whose play time has only dropped over these past 3 or 4 weeks, so including him into the trade to sweeten up the deal for the Jets seems like an easy piece to add if I'm Chris Ballard and the Colts there. But I can't stop thinking about Woody Johnson in that front office over there in New York, what they're thinking now. Like I said, now shipping Quinnen Williams, shipping Sauce Gardner, really hitting the reset button here, at least on the defensive side of the ball, under Aaron Glenn, under this new regime, new head coach, and new everything over there in New York. And a fan favorite in Quinnen Williams, too. They seem to, they feel it was more necessary to ship house out of there. As I keep trying to load this up here, trying to get Twitter loaded up, but absolutely deal via Ian Rappaport, just straight up for the first round pick, nothing more, nothing less. So that's a Quinnen Williams that, like I said, is added to a Cowboys defense that's really been struggling this year. They're the bottom of the league in most statistics. The secondary's been struggling heavy. The pass rush and the rest of the team have been struggling heavy. I'm sorry I'm not looking at you guys here on the camera. I'm just trying to get every detail I can about this trade as it unfolds and as everything happens here, trying to get statistics up for teams defensively and all that. But like I said, going on the Cowboys, it's an offense that's been one of the best offenses in the league, but time and time again, the defense has disappointed, and they disappointed again last night. Everyone saw it prime time live on Monday Night Football against Jacoby Brissett, Marvin Harrison, and that Cardinals team. They're a team that right now ranks I believe bottom of the league in defense once this loads, if I remember correctly. I just want to get the exact number. Yeah, they're 31 in total defense right now. Obviously, on the inside, they've been struggling. Rush-wise, they're bottom of the league as well, as I load up this exact number for you. They're bottom 4 in the league. They're 28th in the league right now, yeah, 28th or 29th in the league right now. Um, in rushing yards, allowing the fourth most rushing yards in the NFL. So a huge addition for a Dallas Cowboys team that obviously Jerry Jones loves to make the splash, loves to make the news, but is honestly trying to make the correct moves to win. And as he goes here with this Cowboys defense, now adding 2 new weapons to this defensive line, one of them who is a bona fide star in Quinnen Williams for the Dallas Cowboys as they try to make a run at the end of the season here, maybe try to squeeze into the playoffs, or I don't know, look forward to the future. But Jerry Jones making a splash, like I said, as the Jets clear house, and we go back to the Sauce Gardner trade from earlier with all of that. A Jets team that's been struggling with, and now like I just keep repeating myself because I was not expecting that one. The Quinnen Williams one just caught me so off guard currently, but when you look at that, as I get the contract details up here, he signed a 4-year deal. What was that, a year or two ago, if I remember correctly? As this tries to load here, I mean, you guys in the chat, please react because, I mean, yeah, as we look at it here, like the Jets obviously know where they are. They're hitting a clear reset button. Probably looking to ship Breece Hall as soon as possible as well. But Dallas making buying moves, not selling moves at the point that they are at 3-5-1 in this season. They are buying, going full in, trying to really fix it up. Obviously, the Colts are a team that many were expecting to buy at the trade deadline. I don't know if necessarily anybody was expecting Sauce Gardner nonetheless, but you were expecting something here from Indianapolis to try to buy when they see this window open. It's not long that you have it. So they really, really, really attack it there with getting Sauce Gardner, with getting a former All-Pro, adding a star to your defense, adding, a leader to your defense over there. I mean, it gets interesting as you pay him, as he just signed that 5.5-year extension. You get him for under $1 million this year. It's like $625K this year, but for the next 4 years after, or 5 years after that, you have him at $25 million a year. So you look at that deal, and it gets very interesting, having to now pay also Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor and a lot of other big names on that team coming up. So that will definitely play a very, very, very interesting part in it. But as we get to it here, Sauce Gardner traded, Quinnen Williams traded to the Jets. Let's see if this loaded over here on the other side. I mean, you have a year of Quinnen Williams at least, and you have a potential opt-out in 2027. So from a Cowboys perspective, you have a year and a half now of this guy who's a bona fide star. Again, another leader on that Jets defense that is now gone, and added to another team that could really help that locker room after they lost a leader earlier this offseason in Micah Parsons. So just to see how that develops here further as this trade deadline develops, it's going to be very interesting to see. Like I said, what's now going to happen here with Breece Hall as we get closer to 4 o'clock? What's going to happen possibly with Garrett Wilson as we get here closer to 4 o'clock? Even though I still think that he is probably on the untouchable list, but clearly big names, especially out of New York, are shipping out of town right now. 2 of them packing their bags, 2 opposite teams, one being the Dallas Cowboys, the other being an AFC rival in the Indianapolis Colts. And as that develops here, I just can't believe that happened as we're really just getting into the Jets and what was going on over there. Obviously, just such hard struggles, just such high hopes over the past couple of years for the New York Jets that have slowly died down more and more. And as you went into the year with Justin Fields this year, you saw a lot more of that same hope that you honestly saw with Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields based off what he was able to do in Pittsburgh. But as the season went on, you just saw that hope in the Jets deteriorate. And time again, they would look terrible on a football field. And they clearly have said that, yes, it's time that we have to take some of these talents, some of these leaders, some of these people that we're paying a lot of money and really reset and get a few first-round picks. Now 3 first-round picks. Indianapolis is this year probably going to be later in the first round. Indianapolis is hoping that the 2027 pick as well will be later in the first round. But you possibly have, if Indy slips out of the playoffs, which is very unlikely, or loses early in the playoffs, you possibly have two top to 15 picks and then two picks within the top 20, if possible. Maybe a pick within the top, like, you know what I mean? Two top 15s and picked within the top 25 there as the New York Jets. So you have a lot of high draft value here as the New York Jets to really do your due diligence now in the scouting department. That's really where they're clearly going to be looking at, as the rest of the season to them is a wash, as they focus now clearly on the draft, getting 2 first-round picks this year, another one next year, and you still have your own from this season. So, moves are going to be made. The Jets obviously are going to be looking for a quarterback as that new young guy comes in, whether that be like a Lenoris Sellers out of South Carolina, whether that be a Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU, whether that be all these different, I can't remember his name. It's like Jalen Strong, I believe, out of Oklahoma. You have a lot of different stuff there in this NFL draft that you are going to be looking for to help this young quarterback, whether that be offensive line work, whether that be another weapon to help Garrett Wilson if Adonai Mitchell doesn't, prove to be the star, because that's another weapon that is very interesting there as you look at the NFL. Sorry, I drew a blank there because I just got alert that the Jets are making another trade. So the Jets now have just traded for DT Mozzie Smith. Got a lot of interesting things going on. The Jets are just active today, man. The Jets are active right now, man. Like crazy active right now, man. As I click on Ian Rappaport's account here just to try to get more. So Mozzie Smith, I thought it was a Cowboy. Along with a second and a future first rounder. The Jets get Mozzie Smith out of it. So that's another huge deal for the Jets, man. That's a lot. The Jets are getting some huge packages as we speak here. Now that's 2 picks out of the Cowboys and Mozzie Smith, who is not a bad young replacement for Quentin Williams, someone who's had a decent season. But again, it's been a struggling Cowboys defensive line down there, especially against the run where Quentin Williams thrives. Quentin Williams with Kenny Clark over there, with a lot of pieces over there in Dallas. So just, the Jets are just getting so active on a trade deadline day that, when you look at their team now losing Sauce, now losing Quentin, you bring in Mozzie Smith, you have all these first-round picks, you're looking forward to the draft, you have so much capital there that you really have to hit. You have to hit on this draft. You had that draft a few years ago where you had Brees, you had Sauce, you had Garrett, you had a lot of pieces over those 2 years. And you can do it again and reset and get a nice quarterback, hopefully, with what you're doing here in New York, because, you're calling the season a wash, obviously. You're very clearly calling the season a wash. And as we look at Sauce Gardner now going to Indianapolis, you look at that situation that they're clearly buying for a window here that is they're hoping is open for at least more than just this season, that Daniel Dimes and Shane Steichen don't click together. But you also, you don't necessarily lose the piece for the Colts because you weren't using them as much. With the Jets, you bring in Adonai Mitchell, who has shown flashes over the past 2 years, just around 460 yards over the past 2 years, and 350 of them were last season, I believe. So you look at that situation, Adonai Mitchell has shown flashes, definitely had some big games for the Indianapolis Colts over the past 2 seasons, but you bring in a star like Sauce Gardner that's been so flip-floppy. It's very big to see how he's going to play here for Indianapolis, because if he could be the Sauce that we had seen 2-3 years ago, that was a top 10 cornerback in the NFL, he will be a gigantic piece to this Colts team, a gigantic piece to the defense there that needs help through the air. They're getting beat over the top. A lot of their games are these shootout games that you expect out of the Colts because the defense gets beat over the top so often, and teams are able to move the ball against them. But you still look at that situation now with Sauce Gardner, with Quinnen Williams, and all of that, and you are now in a position of reset as the New York Jets, quite obviously. Um, and with that reset comes a lot of decisions as you approach now the end of the second half of the season as the New York Jets. Biggest decision, obviously, is the quarterback. Second biggest decision would be, are you keeping Aaron Glenn after this performance, after an 0-7 start? And you get that comeback win against a really bad Cincinnati team. But where you looked at the same thing happened with the Bears this week, where they scored in 12 seconds on that 56-yard touchdown by Loveland against that same Bengals team. So you look at that as you have to look at that now as the Jets is with all these picks now that you're going to have over these next 2 seasons, now 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years for the New York Jets. Are you really looking for Aaron Glenn to be that guy to lead you into that era? Do you truly believe that he is the guy to lead you into that era with this new quarterback and a new defensive reset here with getting rid of Quinnen Williams and getting rid of Sauce Gardner and all of that? Do you want is Aaron Glenn really the guy? You know, is Aaron Glenn really this make or break generational head coach that when you bring in his pieces through the draft, they're going to thrive? Are you guaranteed on that if you are the general manager right now of the New York Jets? I don't know if I am. Personally, I just think the offense has looked absolutely disgustingly sloppy, especially since Garrett Wilson has been injured. I think that there's a lot of I think that the defense hasn't played up to par that you expected an Aaron Glenn defense to play to. I think they're undisciplined. I have a lot of bad thoughts about the Jets when I watch them play football. I think they're sloppy. A lot of that goes through my head as the New York Jets when I watch them play football. But you now make this move to really pursue the future here. And if you're going to do that, you have to now decide, is Aaron Glenn your future? It's a hard decision to make after 1 year. It really is. It's not the easiest decision to make after a single season under said head coach. But nonetheless, it still happens, and you're still seeing it here. But what a wild trade. What a wild day the New York Jets are having as they trade for, or as they trade away Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams here. Just such a blockbuster deal day for the Jets. And I can't help but bring up the fact that they, 3 first-round picks over the next 2 years is not a bad haul for 2 players. 3 firsts and a second, it is not a bad haul for 2 players, That Sauce contract was a lot of money, too, for someone who really wasn't playing worth that money. I see you guys in the chat saying that Woody loves Sauce, but, was he really playing up to $101 million over the past 2 years? Did he really play well enough last year to get that extension this offseason? I don't know if we can necessarily say that, but what I can say is getting that type of draft capital. And I'm not a big draft capital guy. I've said it time and time again over the past couple of years, and that's why I said the focus now goes on the scouting department. Because draft choices at the end of the day are guesses based off what your scout department inquires. You know, it's an educated guess based off what the scout department of the New York Jets inquires, who they'll select with those picks over the next 2 years, right? I'm not a big draft pick guy. You know, you saw Sam Kroenke say it when they won that year with Matt Stafford and they traded all those picks over to the Lions for Matt Stafford. They wore a shirt to the Super Bowl parade that said F them picks because it was very much a situation of, bro, fuck those picks. Like, we won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And it's true for the Indianapolis Colts here. If the Colts turn Sauce Gardner and the defense hits that next level and they end the year, 15-2 after a tough loss this week to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're looking at an Indianapolis Colts team that's just shut down the rest of the year and just locked in and goes on this magical playoff run and goes to the Super Bowl and all of this. If we're looking at that type of move that this catalyzes for the Colts, if that's what this is the catalyst for the Indianapolis Colts, then yes, by far, fuck them picks, bro. But at the same time, you look at that situation of a whole, the New York Jets now have, like I just said, you have 3 chances to possibly get a star in the first round this next year. You have 2 chances next year to get a star in the first round. There's a second round pick involved in these trades too. I just don't remember the year off the top of my head. I want to say it was this year's second round pick as well. So you also have you have 5 picks in the first 2 rounds this year. If I remember correctly, the Jets still hold their own first and second round pick this year. So you can do a lot of things with that. Don't get me wrong. Draft capital is a very, very, very valuable thing. And as we look at it here, the New York Jets got so much of it for Sauce and for Quinnen Williams. It's just looking at the other side, how people grade these trades. It depends, obviously, on the player's success. Howie Roseman said it the best on draft night when they drafted for A.J. Brown. He didn't talk to anyone in the war room that day that they were trading for A.J. Brown. And they go, Howie, who you picking with the pick? And he goes, we just picked A.J. Brown. Because he's better than anyone I felt like we could pick. He didn't actually those words, but that's kind of the insinuation there. The draft picks are guesses at the end of the day. But you are getting more chances to get the guess right. So you got to focus on the scouting now. You got to get these stars that can replace the people that are leaving. Sauce Gardner, like I said, according to PFF, is a top 25 corner in the league right now. Now, whether you agree with Pro Football Focus or not, it's a whole different discussion. But there are people who do this. Now, whether you think there's politics in the grading, all of that, like I'm saying, that's up to your own discretion there. I have my own opinions on them. People have their own opinions on them. But if you want to take them for what they are and just take them at face value for the moment, he's a top 25 cornerback in the league right now. And he's been a top 10, top 5 cornerback in the league before, early in his career. Now, there are things that he struggles with. He struggles with off-press zone. He struggles in press man. Even though those are two opposites, he's better in when he's 4 yards back in man coverage. It's when he usually thrives. Otherwise, he tends to struggle a little bit. He's okay in the flat, but he's not. He's not. Over the past couple years, holes have been poked in his game while watching film. It's happened to a lot of people, but this could be a catalyst for the Indianapolis Colts to really, really, really get going this year, as not only does obviously Sauce bring an energy into the locker room, a leadership into the locker room for the defense, but the move itself brings a motivation into the locker room that Ballard and the rest of the front office feel that this team is ready to win now. Oh, we don't have to wait for the offseason and then make moves then and push for next year. We can do this right now. It is clearly the move that they're trying to do. You saw many teams have done it over the past couple years. And um, they're hoping that this is that type of move that propels them over the top and propels them to a certified team that people still somewhat have on fraud watch here after a few weeks, even though they're 7-2, because of the way that pass defense is, because of the way that the defense has struggled in some games. Now you bring in a star like Sauce that could hopefully help that. A big day for the New York Jets. They go into a game this week as the Browns. A big day as I get the alert here again. The Jets are getting the higher of the 2-1s, whether it's Dallas or Green Bay, so it's not going to be decided. Whichever one ends up higher, they end up with in 2027, and then the 2026 round pick this year from the Dallas Cowboys. So, what an absolute crazy day for New York Jets fans here as they see two of their bona fide stars leave house, get out of here, and move on to another program. Quinnen Williams over there hoping to fit into a Cowboys team that's also struggling. Like I said, they're 3-5-1 after 9 games, and suffered a tough home loss last night to Jacoby Brissett and the Colts, and it's just, woo. Jerry making moves. Jerry said he wasn't done. They made a move this morning, and then he said on the radio, "I'm not done." And for once, Jerry was telling the truth, man. For once, we got to see Jerry Jones telling the truth. But yeah. Not only that happened today, we got Rashid Shaheed going over there. I could talk about this a lot personally, as you see, as I talk about this all the time. You see the Cam Jordan jersey over my head. You can't see the flag hanging anymore, but the Saints flag hangs from my desk every day. A fan favorite. It hurts to see Shaheed go. It does. He was one of my favorite players over these past 2 or 3 years that the Saints have been really struggling. And not even at that 7-8 win mark, really at that 5 win mark over the past couple years. But Shaheed's been a bright point for the team, a huge piece for the Seattle Seahawks that I think Mike McDonald can absolutely expose up there. It's a similar situation to like a Tyler Lockett was up there with Pete Carroll when that whole situation went on. It's just someone who could definitely break the top off of plays. He has such breakaway speed that could create space. He's not the most precise route runner, but like I said, his speed, he's able to make those quick cuts and stuff with that acceleration and that speed, especially when he gets the ball. When he turns up field, he's such a fast player. Getting a 4th and a 5th for him this year, I think, is big for the Saints. Those are 2 draft picks that I think, for the value that Shaheed had, I think that's very reasonable for what you got for him. A player who probably really, with a contract year coming up, probably wanted to go somewhere else anyway, wanted to win as much as he liked it down in New Orleans. You don't get a lot of hometown discounts unless when they were hometown, you were winning. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see Kamara staying there, Olave staying there. They were there while we won. So they know what it's like when it's good down there. Shaheed sadly doesn't, and he sits there now. And like I said, it was a dude that you weren't going to franchise tag, and if the deal wasn't looking great, which it probably wasn't, if Mickey and the front office wanted to trade Raheed, they could, and getting a 4th and a 5th, especially both of them being in this year's draft. These are going to be 2 prospects that will make an immediate impact, hopefully. I'm going to trust in the front office there. They've struggled with drafting quarterbacks with Shook and stuff like that over the past couple of years. Rattler not going 1 in the first round. There were a couple guys that I wanted in the first round as a Saints fan over the past few years, and second round that we just didn't pick. That, not to sound like I'm an NFL scout, but they're dudes who have ended up being good NFL players that I've wanted over the past few years. Lamar was one of them back when that whole draft happened. I still think we should have drafted Jalen Milroe this year, even though I really haven't seen enough out of Shook, but I haven't seen a lot of good out of Tyler Shook. Watson I wanted that year. You know, you go back. There were a few times where I saw the Saints have an opportunity to get a quarterback and they didn't take it. But I'm not gonna cry over spilt milk here as we're in the situation that we're in, and getting a fourth and fifth for Shaheed is not bad. And like I said, on the side of Seattle, I think it's a great pickup. I think it's a dude for Seattle who to really think about it could really blow the top off time and time again for the Seahawks. Um, he's a big play guy who can complement JSN so well. Um, just in the way that he plays, they're going to be a great duo down there. I expect him to make plays and have an impact immediately in Seattle. Yeah. I kind of want to talk about some other things real quick though. While we have a break in the trade deadline, I mean, my God. Whew. Can I talk about that World Series for a little bit? Shout out Game 7 on Saturday, I think it was, because I remember I thought it was on Sunday, because I thought it was in LA. And my dad came in my room in like the 8th inning. Was like, "You're not watching this game. What are you doing?" Uh, so I did watch the ending of that game, an 11 inning classic from the Dodgers as the Dodgers repeat as World Series champions. We see Will Smith get a home run in the top of the 11th, and it was just one of those feelings that you knew that was probably the dagger when it happened. The way that they were playing, the way that Yamamoto was pitched, just inhuman things out of Yoshi Yamamoto there over those last two games, pitching 6.5 shutout innings the night before Game 7 on Game 6, to propel the Dodgers to force a Game 7, and then closing Game 7, pitching 2.5 innings there, pitching half of the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th, or just pitching half of the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th there, or whatever it was, whatever the 2.5 innings were. An absolute insane performance and such a fun World Series to watch. We had an 18-inning classic in Game 3. We had an 11-inning classic in Game 7. Just back and forth. Stars popped out. Vladdy popped out. You know, you had Alejandro Kirk play well. You had George Springer play well until he was unable to play. You saw a lot of stars pop out for Toronto. Yesavage is now a star in this league after being called up a month before the playoffs started, and then he just absolutely tore apart the Yankees and the Dodgers lineup time and time again. And just an absolutely crazy way for the Dodgers to win their back-to-back World Series, their second straight World Series championship, the first repeat World Series champion since the New York Yankees in 99 and 2000 when they actually three-peated 98, 99, 2000. So just an absolute classic there, and I can't help but applaud it. Obviously, I'm not the biggest baseball fan in the world, but I can't help but absolutely applaud that. You know, Shohei Ohtani, someone who is a star, he gives up a 3-run home run early in Game 7, and you don't expect that to happen. And the energy that whole game is just off, and you feel like the Blue Jays are going to win it, and then you get the home run in the top of the 8th, and then Alejandro Rojas, someone who hasn't hit a home run since the spring, since like August, I think it was, he hasn't hit a home run. He gets to go yard in a big spot in the top of the 9th, ties that game, and as I said, that game ended in a classic with the Will Smith home run. Will Smith, the catcher, wins his 6th straight World Series there for the player Will Smith, not the actor. It would be cool if it was the actor, right? No. Not the actor. The player Will Smith gets his 6th straight World Series championship, as he's been a part of the past 6 World Series championship teams, whether that be the Braves, the Astros, or the Dodgers. He's been a part of all those teams. So just an absolute classic there. And as we move on to another sport, as baseball season is over, I don't know if a lot of you notice it here. Besides behind Kristaps Porzingis, I do have a jar, and that jar is filled with something very important to me. And that very important thing to me is confetti from the floor of last year of the Big East championship, of St. John's winning the Big East championship. My alma mater. The school I graduated from last year, a basketball program that I had been a part of through the broadcasting side of it for 3 whole years, as I saw the transition from Mike Brown into the Rick Pitino era, into the growth that I saw from the team last year. So I was very excited last night to see the season kick off against Quinnipiac at home in the SECA, and boy was I happy what I saw. The Stars wore out for the Johnnies last night as they just rolled over Quinnipiac. And like I said, the Stars absolutely showed out last night. Zuby had himself 17 points and 7 rebounds. You had Dylan Mitchell in his first St. John's game, his first game at the SECA as part of the Red Storm. He gets 18 and 7. You had Bryce Hopkins play his part, getting 8 and 5. Oziah Sellers, great shooter. Ian Jackson had 15 for himself. You saw Ruben Prey get a lot of minutes. Sadiku got 10 points. Costas got points. You just saw the bench going. Dylan Darling's a player that I feel like I'm going to love. I loved his energy on the floor last night. Jason Sanson, or Sannon, I apologize there. He's someone who played absolutely well. He went 1 for 1 from 3. Johnny shot 8 for 19 from 3. That's something that's going to be big this year, as everyone knows RJ and Kaderi and Zuby last year as the big 3 were not great 3-point shooters. Some of the biggest 3-point, really the only 2 shooters you could really remember on that Johnny's team last year who are no longer there, or one of which is no longer there, would be Aaron Smith, and the other being Lefteris Leftopoulos. Good old lefty down there. He's been he was a great big part last year. Got a lot of minutes in that Arkansas game and more minutes as the year went on last year. He's a big shooter, but you saw a lot of big stuff out of the St. John's team. You saw Ian Jackson go 3 for 3 from 3, which is big for the Johnnies. It was definitely, for me personally, when I see that type of stuff, I think it's hard to gauge when you watch college sports, these early games, especially in basketball, when you get a matchup like a Quinnipiac, unless you absolutely shit the bed and look absolutely terrible and poor, it's really hard for these top tier teams to really judge how well you look against Quinnipiac. You're supposed to beat Quinnipiac by 28 points. It's what's supposed to happen when you go into the preseason polls ranked number 5, and you're playing at home with all these stars and the number 1 transfer portal in the country and all of that, and all the hype going into this year, the preseason Big East number 1, the favorites to win the Big East championship this year, all the hype that's going into the Johnnies this year. You are expected to dominate Quinnipiac the way you did, but the few takeaways that I can take away is like I said, the shooting. It looks slightly improved, but it's something that has to improve from last year, 110%. The shooting has to get way better for the Johnnies this year, and we'll see it against a good opponent on Saturday in the Garden against Alabama. But yeah, the shooting has to be better. But the effort that Rick Pitino has in his teams was there. The hustle plays. That's why I said that I think Dylan Darling is going to be one of my favorite players this year, because he was just a little heartbeat out there consistently for the Johnnies, similar to like a Davion Smith or an Aaron Scott was last year, or a Simeon Wilcher was last year for the Johnnies. But they have all moved on or graduated, or moved on to other programs and or graduated going forward. But you look at all this going forward for the Johnnies, like I said, you got a big game this weekend here against the Alabama Crimson Tide, who many have expected to be pretty good this year. but then you get a little break for next 2 weeks against William Mary, Bucknell. You know, you don't go on the road really until you play Iowa State in that special game down there in Atlanta, Georgia, that neutral site game. But I was very proud after what I saw from all the new players, from all the new pieces that out of the Johnnies last night. That is all I got for you guys today. You know, nothing left in the trade deadline. I'm not going to talk about week 9 that much as just wasn't very fun to watch. It was kind of boring, you know, outside of that Bears-Bengals game. That was an absolute classic, but besides that, not much this weekend really happened. But a huge trade deadline today. We still have about an hour and 15 left, so I can't wait to see what happens there. Johnny's basketball on Saturday. Knicks basketball coming up, I believe, tomorrow night because they played last night and lost. So Knicks basketball coming up. I'll talk about the Knicks a lot more last week. Baseball has finally ended. Congratulations to the Dodgers on their back-to-back championships. And, yeah, I mean, the Jets blew it up today, guys. The Jets blew up the whole defense. Crazy. Can't wait to see what happens for the rest of the trade deadline. Thank you guys all for tuning in so much today. Please like, subscribe, follow me on TikTok at The Log Show. Follow me on Instagram at The Log Show _. Like I always like to say to you guys, I appreciate every single view that I get. So whether you view this after or while I'm live, I appreciate every single one of them. Thank you guys all for tuning in today. Sorry about last week. Again, a lot of technical difficulties with my camera, so I was unable to go live, but we are back. Stay tuned to the TikTok. I've been posting a lot more content on there, trying to get more active and trying to get a lot more content out there for you guys. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see everyone next week. Peace out.